So today we're going to be talking about how to turn a property into a $50,000 to $100,000 profit using the quick turn strategy without doing any major rehab, without dealing with any tenants, and with minimum financing. So if you don't have a lot of money for financing, that's okay. I'm going to show you how we modeled this deal. Now, this is an actual deal. This is not a theory or something that I'm kind of talking about from. This is something that's an actual deal that we're working on now. The actual picture of the property is right here in the background. I don't know if you can see it that well, but it is a 3 bedroom, 1.5 bath house in a very nice neighborhood. We're going to be going through all the details. I'm going to let you know how we found the seller, what we found out the seller's situation was, how we structured the deal, how we're going to profit from the deal, and what we're going to do on the property. So it'll give you kind of a everything, how this looks in every way. And I'm going to show you how you can find these same kind of deals and do this same kind of thing as well. So it should be interesting. And like I said, this is a real live example. This is not some theory or something like that. This is a deal we're working on right now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. We got quite a few people on the streaming, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So again, my name is Art, and this is my wife, Aisha. We have been real estate investors for 25 plus years. We've been doing this for quite a while. So let's get into it, and I'll show you how this goes, okay? If you have questions, you can interrupt me and ask in the chat. I'll try to answer them if they're around what we're talking about. If there's something different or maybe something didn't make sense, then you can wait to the end and I will get into it and answer the question at the end of the call. Okay. So let's look into it. All right. So if real estate has not paid you like you expected, have you done real estate deals? I see a couple of people on the streaming that said they've done deals in the past. So you've got rentals. I see Mark has rentals. This training is for people who have studied, started, or invested, but still do not have scalable profit. So if you're not making the kind of money you think you should make, then this training is for you and it should help you. Okay. So if this is you, so I'm going to explain a couple of people that usually this works well for. If this is you, you have watched the videos and you've learned the words. You know how to talk like a real estate investor. You're just not making the money like a real estate investor. Then you might want to watch this. You may own a rental or have looked at deals. Anybody in the group, let me know if you own any rentals or if you're looking at deals right now. Then this training will help you because it's going to give you a real world example of what this looks like. You still do not see big repeatable checks. If you are not getting consistent big checks, and when I say big checks, I usually mean $30,000 or better. If you're not getting repeatable checks, then this will help you. If you do not want more tenants or repairs or slow cash flow. So if you've been a landlord and you're sick of the slow cash flow and tenants telling you, give me another week to pay, all that kind of stuff, or you're tired of doing tenant repairs, then this will definitely help you. Okay. All right. So what's tonight's goal is very simple. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to show you one real world deal in plain English. I'm not going to make it sound like it's some kind of international spy thing or something very complicated because it's not a really complicated deal. We're going to break down why quick turn, the actual quick turn strategy is different and why it works so well to do exactly what we're going to do. We're going to talk about helping you see whether this could fit you. Does this fit your lifestyle and what you actually want to do in your business or your life? And then we're going to talk about points. We're going to point you to the next step if you want help. So if you want help, I'm going to show you what you can do today to get started and actually follow this process. Okay. So before I get into that, the first question that usually comes up is why should you listen to Art and Aisha? Why should you listen to us? We teach one specific way to create real estate profit. I don't teach 30 different ways. There's all kinds of ways to make profit. There's land deals, wholesaling, trust. There's subject to, there's, wholesale, just all kinds of stuff. We only teach one strategy. It's the strategy we've been using for the last 10 years. It works really well and it makes really good money. We teach people that strategy and that business, and then we help people use those profits once they start making money from doing it this way. That builds trust. They trust us to help them and see that we're legitimate and telling them what we're going to do. It helps them build capital. And then if they want to, we go into business with those people to invest in commercial real estate as a group. So we buy large scale commercial property once we kind of get you started. It's an excellent setup for us and for you because for us, we've built trust. You know what we're talking about. For you, you trust us enough to put in some major money into commercial because you've made money with the single family stuff. And that's the way it works. We've been in real estate for over 25 years. We've been buying and selling houses. This is all we do. We don't have outside jobs. This is all of our business. We buy and sell properties. We have rental experience and landlord lessons. We've been landlords for about 10 years. We're no longer landlords. We've had multiple real estate deal types. We've done commercial, we've done single family, we've done all kinds of stuff. Two, the quick turn lens. We show you how to look at this business through quick turn, buying real property, controlling the deal, actually controlling your deals, and then exiting them fast with a clear profit path. We want you to get a check. We do not want you to have a bunch of tenants and a bunch of headaches. This is to get a check. Why we teach it? Why do we teach this process? It helps you make real money first. That's the first thing. It shows you that this can actually make money and what we are saying is legitimate. It helps you build skill and confidence to do this. And then finally, it creates future commercial investing partners so you can work with us if you want to build money in commercial. Okay. We are not here to teach you 16 strategies. We are here to show you one strategy that can create large active income checks, if that makes sense. So this is a real business that creates active checks. Okay. So let's get into it. The one big idea, if nothing else that you walk away with from tonight, the one big idea I want you to see, you do not scale by doing more random deals. Doing random deals every once in a while, finding a deal, that is not how you scale. That is not how you get out of your job. That is not how you set up for retirement. That is not how you build into commercial. You scale by learning how to structure better, consistent opportunities. That word consistent is probably one of the biggest words that most real estate investors kind of run away from, because if you're not making consistent money, it's very hard. Even if you make $50,000 on a deal, you don't know how you can spend that money because you don't know when you're going to get your next check. With consistency, you can do that all the time. Okay. You can do this all the time. Real estate profit is not just found in the house. Everybody thinks when they find a house, that is where the money is. It is not in finding a house. It is actually found in the situation of the seller, the negotiation with that seller, setting up the deal structure the right way, and then exiting that deal. That is where a lot of money is in real estate, but most people aren't paying attention to those because they're so focused on the house. My goal with everything that we're going to show you tonight and the stuff we teach is to get you out of that mindset and get you in the mindset of building this business to be a consistent cash flow for you and your family. Okay? Number one big idea I want you to think differently about, and just follow along. If you have questions, you can ask in the chat. A cheap house can still be a bad deal. Everybody thinks when they find a cheap house that, oh, this is a great deal. That does not mean it's a good deal. So don't just go for cheap houses. That's the first lesson I had to learn. Two, a motivated seller in the wrong structure can still waste your time. If it's somebody imagine if somebody has a house that's worth $100,000. They owe $99,000, but they really want to get out of the house and they really want to sell it to you, and they're willing to sell it to you for nothing. You still got to pay off $99,000. That does not make it a good deal. Number three, a clean equity situation can create a better path to profit. A lot of people try to figure out how to make money from real estate. They think I'm going to fix up the house or I'm going to rent the house out. Why do any of that? Why not just find a house that's worth more and they don't owe a lot on it, and then get some of the equity that's already in the house? And you can do that very easily, and the money is already there. I negotiate for all of my profit. I don't fix up houses. I don't go over to properties cutting grass and everything else. I just negotiate for my profit. And I'm going to show you that on this deal that we're going to talk about tonight. This is a real world active deal. I am actively closing this deal right now. This is just one of several properties that we're working on, but I wanted you to see a real world, because everybody, when I tell them the numbers of quick turn, they always say, oh, well, I couldn't get a house that cheap, or how do you find a house that cheap? I'm going to break it down for you on this call tonight so you can see. Okay. Number four, quick turn starts with the profit path before you get trapped in the project. Has anybody here ever done any real estate investing? If you have, let me know in the chat if you've ever done any kind of real estate investing, whether it's buying a rental, buying a fix and flip, buying a wholesale, any of that stuff. Just let me know what type of deal you've done in the past. Because here's what normally happens with a lot of investors. They start on one path and they fall in love trying to negotiate this deal or trying to get a deal on this house. And they are willing to take a bad deal on the house just so they can do a deal. That happens to a lot of investors. They get starry-eyed and they just want to do a deal. I am going to say none of these deals matter. I want to do more quantity and make more checks. I don't care about the property. I barely, if ever, go see the properties that I buy. Okay? So those are the four things. A cheap house can still be a bad deal. A motivated seller in the wrong structure can still waste your time. A clean equity situation can create a better path to profit. And quick turn, our process starts with the profit path before you get trapped in the project. I do not want you falling in love with the property. Okay? So let's get into it. The three quick turn secrets behind this particular deal. Now, deals can sometimes vary a little bit, but I'm going to talk about this specific deal. This deal is not that different from most typical deals that we get, but I'm going to break this down. And if you have questions, just ask in the chat and I'll be happy to answer them. Number one, the life creates the deals. Houses don't get into trouble. Let me say that again. Houses don't get into trouble. Houses don't have problems. People have problems. So people and their lives create the deals, not the house. That's why you don't need to see the house, because the house isn't the problem. These deals exist year round. So there is no season, in my eyes, there is no season to buy houses. There is no season to sell houses. Deals and situations come up every day of the year, all the time, if that makes sense. Okay. So these exist all the time. They come from personal situations, people that are having situations or problems, and they come from personal situations. And it's not always foreclosure. It's not always taxes. It can be other things. Sometimes it can be a bunch of things. They do not require perfect market conditions. This is a big mistake that people make. They will stop buying houses because they say the market isn't strong right now. There is more money to be made when the market is declining than when the market is up. There is a lot of money to be made when the market is up, but there's a lot more money when people think the market is going down. They're more likely to take a deal because they feel they don't have any other option. There is no perfect market condition, and you can make money following this strategy, whether the market is up, whether the market is down. It does not matter. If the market were to stop moving, in other words, nobody in America were buying houses, maybe then you'd have a problem. But if that were the case, we'd have bigger problems than selling a house. You'd probably have to worry about groceries being on the grocery shelf. Okay. Secret number two, structure finds the deals. The way you set your business up is how you will find these deals. I'm going to talk to you about how we found this deal today, and I'm going to show you the structure of what we do. There is a repeatable way to identify these specific kind of deals. You do not need to run yourself crazy. How many people here have done cold calling? Or how many people here have put out bandit signs? Or how many people here have done anything that requires you to do a bunch of physical stuff, like making phone calls or putting out signs all weekend, or going and driving for hours and hours looking for properties where the grass isn't cut and it looks dilapidated? You don't need to do any of that with what I'm going to lay out for you. The right questions expose the opportunity. Your job is just to get people with equity to call your phone. When they call your phone, you will ask the right questions, and that will show you the opportunity, if that makes sense. Okay. Secret number three, equity is what funds the deal. Equity in the property is what funds the deal. Remember, if you guys have any questions about what I'm talking about, just ask in the chat. I'll be happy to answer. I'm going to answer questions at the end of this as well. But if you have something while I'm going, just ask in the chat. Number three, so equity funds them. High equity reduces lender risk. It reduces the lender's risk when there's a lot of equity in the property. And when you reduce the lender's risk, what do you think they do for you? That's right. They make it easier for you to finance the deal. Profit margin creates the funding story. And I'm going to explain this because when you see how I did this deal and the numbers, it's going to make sense. And you're going to say, wow, that makes sense. And you're going to think, well, that's a unique deal. This is not a unique deal. This is a typical deal of stuff we do. Minimum financing can still control a big asset. So you don't have to have a large amount of money or cash to put anything together. You just have to be able to put together something to do the deal and understand how you're going to structure it. So let's get into that. So this is a real deal snapshot. This is an actual deal that we worked on, that we're working on now, that we're talking with the seller with. I literally just got off the phone with the seller on this deal about an hour before we got on this call. This seller inherited the property that they have. Their aunt died and they got the property from the aunt, and the aunt basically died and left them the property. They lived there with the relative when she was alive, when the aunt was alive. Now the aunt is passed, and now they need a simpler, more affordable situation. They cannot afford to keep this house. And I'm going to show you the terms. Now, this is the seller's situation, okay? They inherited the property from a relative. The relative passed away. The seller can no longer afford the upkeep on the property. The property has some problems. Let's talk about it. The basement recently flooded. So when that basement flooded, they did not have the money to finish the repairs to clean out the basement. So mold has been forming in the basement. So the seller lacks the money to finish the repairs. That's what kind of pushed them to call us, because they knew they couldn't finish the repairs and the basement is starting to get mold, and that mold is starting to make them sick because they can't get it out and they're still living in the house. The rest of the property is not a major rehab. The rest of the property is actually in very good shape. It's just this unexpected thing with the mold that caused them to be under distress to want to sell the property. Remember, I told you, if you've ever watched any of my videos, I talk about how you find sellers that don't have a problem that's on paper. You find them and then they will raise their hand for you. And we'll talk about that in a second. The equity. This is the quick turn. This is what lets me know I can set it up for a quick turn deal. High equity is the key. I'm going to tell you the numbers on this property in just a second, and you're going to see high equity is what makes this deal attractive to us and why we can do a deal in the first place. Debt on this property is less than $50,000. She owes less than $50,000 on this house, okay? The value on this property is roughly $220,000. That is a lot of equity, okay? She owes less than $50,000, and this property has over $220,000 worth of equity in it. Okay. That just gives you an idea. And this isn't magic. We actually market to find these type of deals. And most people are looking for foreclosures. They're looking for tax liens. None of that stuff would have found this property. Okay. So the opportunity is not the problem. The opportunity is the equity, the seller's problem, and that we can put together easy financing for this. Okay. Are you following along? Is this making sense so far? I know sometimes when I go through these numbers, it can move a little bit fast. I'm going to break it down a little bit better. Just let me know in the chat if you all can hear me and this makes sense so far, if you're getting it. Okay. If I need to break it down a little bit further, I will. All right. So secret number one, these deals exist in every market. That's one of the key things I want you to understand with this. This is not a Indiana thing or a Chicago thing or a Texas thing or a Dallas thing, or these are everywhere in every market in the United States, because they are created by personal situations, not by perfect market conditions. Okay. Life happens. That's what happened with this deal. She got an inheritance. It was affordability pressure because she could not afford to keep up the house. That's why this first thing of the basement flooding became a major issue. For most people, this wouldn't even be a major issue. It would be whatever happened, and that would be the end of it. Maintenance stress is another thing that was a stress for her because she had to maintain the property. Some people cutting the grass and maintaining all the stuff, houses break. That's just what happens with houses. There's unexpected damage. She had the basement that flooded, and that caused unexpected damage on the property. And then finally, market conditions do not eliminate personal problems. So let's talk about that. Some sellers need speed and certainty and simplicity. That's just what it is. They need this kind of stuff to get rid of it. And that's where she's at. She just wants to get out of this property so she can get someplace where she can afford to live and she doesn't have to worry about the upkeep and deal with the basement flooding and the mold and all that kind of stuff. Some homes have equity, but they need a clean solution, and that's hers. She understands that there's equity in this property. She's not questioning that. She's willing to give up a lot of the equity in exchange for getting her out of the property, closing quickly, and taking care of all of this stuff. Some owners do not want top dollar. That is not their priority, and that's the same thing with her. She doesn't have to get every dollar out of the house because she knows that'll take more time. Quick Turn finds the structure inside the situation. So I'm going to go through these numbers a little bit with you to show you how this lady's deal came together. Okay. Secret number two, there is a structured way to find and negotiate these kind of deals. Quick Turn is not a go talk to everybody kind of thing. It's a focused process. So we're going to look for equity rich owners. That's what we look for. People that have equity in their house. We don't care if they have a problem. We need to identify people with equity in our area. We're going to diagnose. We're going to understand the seller's problem before making numbers up. We're not going to make them an offer on the property. The first thing you need to do is figure out, what does the seller want? When this person came to us, they said that they needed to get out of this house quickly. They want to sell it. They don't want to keep up with it, and they just need to get rid of it. You have to understand the seller's problem before you ever make an offer to them. Control. We don't want to wholesale this deal. You don't want to put this property under contract and then turn around and somebody cuts you out of the deal. We're going to buy this property. You want to secure the property with the clean agreement and actually buy the property. Okay. So that's important. Then you want to exit. Most people get this wrong. They try to make it into a rental or something like that. Know how you will sell the property before you buy it. We know an exact way of how we're going to sell the property so we can get rid of it quickly. And that's what we're doing with this one. And then finally, profit. Use the spread to create a real check. I didn't have to fix it up. I don't have to put a bunch of money into it. I'm going to create a real check with this property. We're going to go over numbers in just a second so you can see what this looks like. And this is not a special deal. This is a deal anybody here can do, regardless of where you're at right now, but you have to start. Okay. The point is not to chase more deals. The point is to recognize the right deals faster. It will make your business go faster and make you more money quickly. Okay. The quick turn deal process. Every strong quick turn opportunity needs these 5 pieces. So let's talk about it. Number 1, a situation. You don't care why they are selling, but they must come to you. They need to reach out to you. Number 2 is equity. Every call that comes through must have enough room between debt and value. So there's got to be equity in the deal. Okay. Number 3, control. Buy the deal. In other words, buy the property to have full control and make more money. You will make more money than a wholesale if you control the deal from the start to the finish. Okay. Funding. Funding a high profit as is deal to you will make financing easier. If you're buying a property that has a lot of equity, you're buying it as is, so the equity is there now, not when you fix it up. You will make the financing easier, and it will be easier for the lender to give you the money. Okay. And then finally, 5 is the exit. Sell to anybody that has the money. Let me say that again. Sell to anybody that has the money. Never use a buyer's list. Is there anybody here that uses a buyer's list? So I can tell you don't need to do that. You are limiting yourself if you use a buyer's list. Why would I ever, let's say I got a buyer's list of 50 people. Why would I ever say I'm not going to sell to anybody else, only to these 50 people? That makes no sense. I want to sell to everybody because I want them fighting over my deal. Does that make sense? You want them fighting to get a deal with you. Okay. So let's look at the real deal math and what this is. This is why the opportunity can make sense without trying to squeeze every dollar out of the property. You don't have to get the top dollar and you'll still make good money. Property value on this property is $220,000. Okay. 220,000. That's what it's worth. Not once it's fixed up. That's what it's worth today in its current condition. If it was fixed up, this property is probably going to be worth around $280,000 to $300,000. Okay. The current debt on this property is less than $70,000. She owes actually less than $50,000 on this property. We found out today, but she doesn't owe that much on the property. So it's got $50,000 worth of debt, or less than $50,000 worth of debt. It's worth $220,000 right now. The target resale, we're going to sell this property from somewhere between $200,000 to $215,000. That's roughly what we're going to sell it for right away, quickly. Okay. And then our profit is going to be somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000. Right now, I'm thinking our profit is probably going to be around $80,000 on this deal. It does not matter your skill set, how long you've been doing this to turn these kind of numbers. These are typical numbers for what we do, the way we do quick turn, because we find properties with high equity and we find the sellers that are motivated to sell within those properties with high equity. Okay. So it's not hard. These numbers aren't like unique or, oh my goodness, this is a typical type of deal. The key is the spread. We are working with the deal so that the bank can be paid off, the seller can receive money to move, and the property can still be controlled well below value. We are probably going to buy this property for around $90,000. We actually have a contract on it for $83,000, but I believe there's some taxes on it and some other stuff that are going to come up that we're going to find out when we get the title back. And we're probably going to buy this place for, I would say, about $90,000. And when I say buy it for $90,000, that's all in. That's closing costs, that's title fees, that's lender fees, that's everything we're going to spend, or borrow, I should say, not spend, but borrow to buy this property. And that includes getting I'll talk about what that includes in just a second. Okay. This is why the quick turn process focuses on high equity properties first, not motivation. Most people are taught to go look for motivated sellers first. Don't do that. At least not the way we do it. We look for high equity first. Okay. Does that make sense? All right. If you're coming in late and you just seeing this and you want to see the whole thing, I will get you a replay. We'll get it out to you tomorrow. So don't worry about it. Why this is not a big rehab deal. Okay, so why this is not a big rehab deal. Quick Turn is not about taking on a giant repair project just to prove you are a real investor. I know contractors that want to get into rehabs. We don't want to touch anything with the rehab. So this is the stuff, this is the extent of what we might do on this property. It's not guaranteed, but based on what we know, this is what we might do. We might get a dumpster. We might remove the basement carpet because it had flooding. We might remove damaged paneling in the basement because it has paneling in the it was a finished basement, so we're going to remove that. And then we're going to leave a bare bones basement that is easy to sell. So the beautiful thing about it, we're going to rip all that out. We are not going to put anything into it. And then the owner or the person that comes in to buy the property, they're going to say, oh, I can make this into the basement of my dreams. And they're going to make it into their man cave or whatever they want to do. Okay, so that is what we're doing. The dumpster is going to cost us $500. Removing the basement carpet and the paneling is going to cost us maybe $1,000. So we're at $1,500, and then we're going to have a bare bones basement. So it's not going to cost us very much, and it's only going to take a day to get that done. What we are avoiding, what we are not doing, we are not doing a full basement rebuild. We're not making the basement a man cave. We are not doing major cosmetic overhaul. We're not touching the rest of the house. We're not doing anything to the rest of the house. We are not holding it as another rental. We're not going to rent it out or anything like that. And we're not going to have any long contract drama because we're just getting some guys to clean it out. There's very little that they can mess up, and they're not going to play games. They're just going to go in and clean it out and be done in a day, and then we'll pay them. That's what we're doing, okay? The rest of the property does not need a major rehab. The goal is a clean exit, not a perfect house. That's the goal, to get in and out, okay? Secret number 3, let's talk about that. These deals can be easier to finance. A lender does not need a fantasy story where the numbers already make sense, okay? Why the lenders like this? Why they like these kind of deals? Debt payoff is low compared to the value. There's only a little bit less than $50,000 owed on this property, so it's not going to be a big deal. The lender risk is reduced by equity. So that's another big thing, that they know that there's equity in the deal. So even if I screw up and I don't do what I'm supposed to do, they're still going to get their money out of the deal, which is very important to the lender. The exit price is realistic. We're not trying to set some number that's really high in the market. We're actually below the market. So what can happen is they'll push the price up, or they'll just buy it for what we're selling it for, and we'll still make our money. So either way, we win. The profit story is easy to understand. It's not, when you tell a lender how you're going to make money, they need to understand that story, and it needs to be believable. You saying that you're going to fix up a property that you've never done fix up before, you've never done a rehab, is a hard sell for that lender. The way we're doing it, the property's worth this, we're buying it, and we're going to buy it for this, and then we're going to sell it for what it's worth, is not a hard sell to them, okay? Our financing path on this deal. So how are we going to finance this deal? 1, we are going to get a loan that will pay off the bank, okay? 2, we are going to borrow the money needed to pay the seller. All in all, with that and the money for the $1,500 for the rehab work, we are going to spend out the door probably no more than $90,000. We're probably going to be under $90,000, but no more than $90,000. Keep total debt well below 50% of the value. So at $90,000, this place is worth $220,000 today. That is not a hard push for the lender because they're loaning less than half of what the value is. You know how lenders set thresholds. They say we won't loan more than 70% or 80% of the value. We come in so low that they rush to give us money. And you can do the same thing when you set up the right deals. Use the spread to make the lender comfortable. They're going to see that, hey, there's not a lot of risk here. They're going to just sell the property and it's going to make sense. Now, some of you might be saying, well, why doesn't she just sell the property and cut us out of the deal? Is that what you're thinking? She needs a fast exit. She wants to get out of the place because of the mold. She wants to get out of the place because she can't afford it. And she's just ready to be at peace. Some people will give you money for their peace. That's not crazy. That's how life works. Okay. All right. I can't do that. I have no experience. For those of you that are saying to yourself, this is exactly why you need a framework, not more random real estate information. Watching a bunch of YouTube videos with random information is not going to help you. You don't need to know everything to make money in real estate. Start with one strategy, and usually you can stick with that for years. Learn what a good setup looks like, how to set up your business and how to set up deals. Use examples before doing your own deal. practice with doing examples. That's what we do with our students, and we show them how to negotiate. We actually help them negotiate so they can put together deals and how to strategize on the deal. Next, you need investor eyes. That is important. You need to see the situation for what it is, not be afraid of it. See the equity, which is pretty easy once you know how to value a property. See the exit before getting excited. Don't get excited. Get the deal done, and that will help you make money. Then you're going to build confidence. This comes with repetition and consistency. Review deals consistently. Always review deals. Even if you're not going to buy it, review deals, figure out what it would take for you to buy the deal, and then surprisingly make an offer for that number. They might say no, they might say yes, but if they say yes, you got a deal, and you didn't even think you would. Ask better seller questions. This is the biggest thing in your business. Ask good seller questions because it will make it easier. Move only when the math works. Don't move on emotion. Don't move when the house looks beautiful. Only move when the math makes sense. We are driven by numbers, not by emotions. Okay? Two more objections we need to kill. So these are two other things that everybody's going to say, or a lot of people are going to say. These are the reasons many good people stay stuck watching deals instead of doing deals. Number one, I don't want to do major rehabs. Good. Quick turn is not built around major rehabs. We look for clean, understandable exits. That's what we want to get in and get out. Sometimes small cleanup is enough to make the property presentable. That's what we're going to do just because we're going to let the basement air out and get rid of the mold. That's just cleaning. And not that it has mold, but it's just been wet and she's worried about mold. So the deal must work before you take on more risk. If we were fixing this house up, it doesn't necessarily make us a lot more money. If I'm going to spend 30 more thousand fixing this place up, I might make 50,000. It's not worth the risk. I'd rather go do another deal and not have to fix it up. Money. I don't have enough money. That's the other one that everybody says. Strong equity creates better financing conversations. A lot of times you don't need all the money. You don't need a lot of money. You need a very little bit of money. And we can show you where to get that from if you don't have it. We are not asking lenders to gamble. That's going to make it easy for you to get financing. The deal structure should reduce risk. It should not make the deal more riskier. Your starting point decides the best path forward because if you get the right deal, you can easily finance it. Okay? What would this look like for you? Does this sound like a deal that you could put together? Did it sound like I did anything magical in this deal? And it's like, oh, well, that's the way you're making money because you did this magical thing. No, it's just a matter of putting the right deal together, the right pieces. The next step is not to guess. It is to see if Quick Turn fits your situation, your market, and your resources. If you are serious, I suggest setting a strategy call with us, and we will look at where you are starting from right now, what's going on with your life, what resources, credit, cash, or funding path may fit you. We can work with a lot of different situations. You just have to be honest and come to the conversation with this is where I'm at. Whether your local market can support these deals, 90% of the markets in the U.S. can support these kind of deals. There are some markets that can't, but even if they can't support these kind of deals, I'm going to show you how to still do this and be successful with it. I've got two students that are in markets that they cannot do these deals, and they are still closing deals and making money. One of them is doing a deal where she's going to make $175,000. Next, we're going to talk about what your first 90 days should look like during this process, okay? It's very simple. It's very straightforward, and you can start now. And this is a great time to start. Whether working with us makes sense. Everybody doesn't need to work with us because it will not make sense. But if it does make sense for you and you want to get started and you want to hit the ground running and go fast, this will make sense, and we'll show you and talk to you about what that looks like. This is not a hype call. If you get on a call with me, it is a fit call to see if you're a fit, to see if we're a fit for you, and see if it makes sense for us to work together and you to grow eventually into commercial if that's what you choose to do. So step one, answer a few questions. I put this in a QR code. So if you're watching this on a computer screen or something like that, you can take a picture of this QR code. If not, I will give you the link in the chat if you want a copy of the link to set up a call. Tell us on the call, you're going to tell us where you are starting from. Share your real estate goals. What do you actually want to make? What would a good year for you look like with Quick Turn Real Estate? What do you think you need to see that you would consider this year a success? You know, a lot of people can't really put that in the numbers, and they say something like the sky's the limit. Of course, the sky's the limit, but you have to start someplace and put together numbers that actually make sense. So what would you consider a successful year for you? Next, we're going to talk about, let us see your readiness level. What, if anything, is holding you back from doing this? If there's something, then maybe there's a workaround, and we can show you how to work around it. If there's nothing holding you back, then why are you not getting started? Maybe you're just scared, and that's okay. People are scared. I've got students that are scared all the time, and they still are very successful. Then we're going to talk about booking the right next step call. So what's the next step once you get started? What do you have to do first? We'll talk about all of that. Your next deal, if you've done a deal before, should not be another guess. Quick Turn gives you a framework to spot the situation, structure the deal, and create a clear path to profit. Remember these few things because they will help you. One, these deals exist year round. Whether the market is up, down, interest rates are high, low, Donald Trump is in office or somebody else is in office, these deals are still going to be here because they are people and their situations. Personal problems create the opportunities for you. Okay. Number two is framework. Find the problem once you know that you're looking at somebody with equity. Check the equity, control the deal, get the funding, and then exit. Don't think about doing all this rental property and Airbnb. Do that after you got a war chest of cash. Do that after you got some money. Next step is answer the qualifier questions. You can go back. I'll go back and put the QR code back up. You can answer the questions. It'll ask you a few questions just so we can know how we can help you. So when we set up the call, and then you can schedule your strategy call. Okay. The biggest thing with this is fear. It is not the money. People can come up with the money to invest in their future if they're serious about doing this. The numbers make sense. I've got several. I know I'm showing you a property that we did. I cannot show you my students' properties. I've shown some of them. I've got a student, Yolanda. She did $134,000 on her first deal. I've got another student, Kyra. She did $50,000 on her first deal. I've got another student, Lisa. She did $175,000 on her first deal. I've got another student, Sheila. She did $75,000 on her first deal. I've got students that do these deals and make really good money. Most of them, I won't say all of them, that follow the process and actually do the work. I want to see you guys be successful with this. I want to see you make some money. And at the end of the day, I want to see you go into commercial with us. Oh, hey, Joanne, good to see you. Look to see you all get started and we will get going. All right. All right. I wish you guys the best. I will see you next time. We do these every Monday, so you can come on and get on a call with us, each Monday. But we're going to talk to you about joining up with us and working with us, and we will get started. All right, everyone. Wish you the best. As always, happy hunting. See you guys later. Bye-bye.